And of course, when it came to voting, both COPE's Willie Madisha and Al Jamal's Khanif Hendricks broke ranks with opposition parties by voting no. And of course, this raised questions around the unity when it comes to opposition parties. But let's continue with reaction on the results of the vote on the Section 8-9 Independent Panel report. And the Committee of Parliament will now not go ahead. And this, of course, as the majority of MPs in the National Assembly voting against it. Let's speak to political analysts Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast and Asanda Ngoasheng, who are both joining us live now. Thank you so much to you both for your time. We don't have a lot of time, so I'll get into it. Dr. Breakfast, did today take you by surprise, or did you expect more of the same like we've seen in the past where closing ranks is concerned?
Bongiwe, I wasn't taken aback by the turn of events. I saw it coming. I think the writing was on the wall for opposition parties that everything was going to go according to plan for the Ramaphosa faction, in particular after the proposal from opposition parties to vote in private was turned down. So it stood to reason that the dominant faction of the ANC was going to emerge as a victor. But what was interesting was the voting pattern, you know, because in the beginning, there was a flow of no's, and all of a sudden, you know, Dr. Zuma said yes. And that was very symbolic. And coupled with that was the manner in which she said yes, because you could see on her facial expression that she was actually saying that I've got nothing to lose. I think there was a subtext to that posture. And then after that, then there were other people who also said no, like Supra and so on. My view is that the ANC subscribes to what is called a Marxist-Leninist organizational model, which demands party discipline. That when the highest decision-making body has made a call, all and sundry has to abide by that. If you go against orders, if you don't abide by the orders of the party, that constitutes ill discipline. So, I mean, to say that as a disciplined member of the ANC, you are going to vote yes, but you are actually doing the exact opposite, I think that was very sarcastic.
And ANC Chair Gwede Mantashe is saying that they are now going to be taking this member to party structures on how to deal with it then going forward. Asanda, they found themselves here before. How does this one play out? Is it too soon to start mulling that maybe the ANC may have a cabinet reshuffle soon?
No, I don't think that the ANC is going to have a cabinet reshuffle. They're literally a couple of days away from the National Elective Conference. They're going to wait for the National Elective Conference to do what it does, which is to elect the leaders and essentially give us the new kind of the new incumbents. And I think what happened today is that it's people who have realized that their political careers are over. And as I think Dr. Breakfast has said, they have nothing to lose. We know Supra, his career is probably over. There isn't, you know, there wasn't much hope to begin with. We know with Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma that his second attempt at being president fell and never really took off in the way that she thought it would. And so I'm not surprised that, you know, of the people that broke ranks, it was Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, it was Supra, and it was the other two members that were mentioned. These were people who were always going to be kind of kicked out or at the very least put to the side as soon as Cyril Ramaphosa comes back, which I think he's highly likely to come back. And I mean, I think for me, what's interesting is this idea that, you know, I was listening to Supra just before the vote was taken during an interview with the SABC, and he was talking about how he is going to vote, you know, with his conscience, he's going to vote for democracy. And I wondered, where was this ideology? Where was this desire to vote for democracy and uphold it when, you know, there were various attempts against Jacob Zuma being impeached? And I thought, you know, it's quite interesting how suddenly the unethical seem to have found their ethics in this particular instance. And I wondered what was behind that. And I think, you know, it's going to be a very interesting national elective conference to see the musical chairs that people are going to be playing and to see, you know, we've already seen it, somebody saying it's a yes, no, it's a no, it's actually a yes. And that's the kind of thing that we're going to be seeing, because people are literally watching which way are things swinging and making their decision on that basis, because the ANC long stopped being about democracy. It long stopped being about South Africa and what's good for South Africans. And I think that, if it was about South Africa and if it was about what's good for South Africans, we wouldn't be seeing consecutive democratic processes being subverted in the manner that the ANC does, where it comes outside of parliament and says, this is the party line and everybody must vote in this way, regardless of what it is that is being questioned, what it is that is being engaged with. They have a history of doing this. And I think, this is why many call for the ANC to be kind of stripped of its majoritarian power, because that is what gives it the ability to subvert democracy by constantly deciding before the nation, deciding before the legislative principles and processes what is actually going to happen, such that parliament simply becomes a rubber stamping of the ideas, the ideologies, and the decisions of the ANC that are taken at Luthuli House and not at the seat of government, which is supposed to be what parliament is.
And Dr. Breakfast, right at the back of that, how then would you say, how low is the bar when it comes to accountability within the ANC right now when you listen to what Asanda has to say?
Yeah, first of all, I do agree with Asanda that some people within the ANC are applying double standards. When it suits them, they vote along the lines of party orders. When it doesn't suit them, they vote with their conscience. And that signifies that some people are not truthful. The issue is that at the moment, there is a big war within the ANC that has broken out. You have people who are hardliners, who are going on the offensive, who are taking a swipe at the president, demanding this and that he must step down, and so on. On the other hand, you have the softliners, those who are going on the defensive, who are basically saying that the president is facing a political onslaught. So I think the dust is going to settle, in my opinion, after the electoral outcomes of the upcoming conference have been unveiled. I also agree with Asanda that maybe there might not be a cabinet reshuffle, given the fact that that might convey a message that some people maybe are being purged on a large scale.
And Asanda, when one looks at the opposition, I mean, they found themselves here before. You and I have alluded to this. You think about Nkandla, you think about Amsdale and all of that. They found themselves here before, and yet we are still seeing some in the opposition benches dissenting and not seemingly being united. How important is it going to be for them to also sing from the same hymn sheet? And is it even a possibility when you look at some of the dynamics that exist? You think about the Good Party, for example, their leader is in cabinet.
I think that, one of the biggest problems we have in South Africa is the opposition, the lack of opposition unity, but also the inability of our opposition to provide an alternative that people can vote for in overwhelming numbers is precisely the reason why we are sitting with this ANC that is doing as it wants to at any and every point. And I think, the opposition really needs to take this opportunity also to look at themselves and say, what is it that we are doing and not doing? And how is it that we constantly fail to convince South Africans that we are a viable possibility, whether as individual parties or as a unit? And I think that, opposition parties had the potential with all these coalition governments that we've had to show us that they can work together so that South Africans can trust them when, we have what's expected, which is the coalition government at a provincial and a national level. But they keep showing us that they're not ready, that they're not prepared, and that they actually don't even understand what it is that makes them unable to unseat the ANC. And, we talk a lot about the ANC, and I think it's important that we do and we critique them, but the opposition also has a lot of questions to answer for, because if we had a strong opposition, if we had viable opposition, we wouldn't be stuck with the ANC in the way that we are. We wouldn't, there wouldn't be a struggle to remove the majority that allows Parliament to go back to being a place where real decisions are taken, rather than just being the rubber stamp unit of the ANC.
And very, very briefly, Dr. Breakfast, Lindiwe Sisulu, Zweli Mkhize, not there.
Yeah, I think that was very interesting. I think some people don't want to convey a message that they are ill-disciplined, despite the fact that they are discontent about the decision that was made by the NEC to support the president. We've had people breaking ranks in public, like Dr. Mkhize, that the debate was not done in a way that is fairly and squarely. But I think maybe they don't want to come across as if they're joining forces with the opposition parties. That's why they stayed away from Parliament.
All right, let me thank you both for your time tonight. I suppose there's going to be lots of conversations had on this particular subject because this is a big week for the ANC as it readies itself for its conference. Political analysts Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast and Asanda Ngoasheng, thank you so much to you both for your time.